All right, bull runners. So it is officially over. The Ripple versus SEC lawsuit has come to an end, and all the pain, all the frustration, and the patience us XRP holders have gone through over the past few years has finally been worth it. So now the real fun is going to start, and we are about to cook. Right now on the price chart, XRP is up $3.31, while Bitcoin's dominance dropped. So the SEC has approved the Bitwise ETF, and XRP is in alongside Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and more. XRP is now part of the fully regulated ETF space. So Wall Street just got access, and get ready for what's going to come with BlackRock here soon as well too. Make sure you guys are subscribed because we're going to cover that. Stablecoin market is expanding. Stablecoin payments are everywhere for good reason. Monica Long just posted this saying, we met with Rail Financial team. We knew their product capabilities would complement what Ripple Payments already offers. And together, we're taking the complexity out of stablecoin-based payments for any financial institution's needs. We'll have capabilities such as stablecoin pay-in, pay-out, including USD, without requiring customers to hold crypto or manage accounts themselves, not to mention a broad and deep global network, market-leading liquidity, and more. So, as all the banks start getting into this space, it's not necessarily, if I pull up this right here, you guys can see that banks are no longer asking if they should tokenize. They're asking how and which company do you think they're going to be going to, and that they already have been going to start diving in full force. Of course, that's Ripple. So here's a list of US licenses and disclosures that Rail Financial holds, who was just acquired by Ripple. So that's Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. So Ripple acquired Hidden Road, they acquired Rail Financial. They're basically becoming a bank. And so together with Ripple and Rail Financial, they will be the go-to provider of stablecoin payment infrastructure for global financial institutions around the world. So it's no coincidence why Trump just signed the Genius Act into law for stablecoins. And now this is happening with Ripple, all at the same time while the lawsuit was just dropped. On top of that, XRP has officially been listed as a commodity under the CFTC. And there's got to be a wizard behind the scenes pulling the strings here, because this is all happening while Bitcoin's dominance is breaking to the downside. Bitcoin's dominance has dropped from about 62%. It's only at 61%. So to put this into perspective for you, Bitcoin's dominance has dropped 1% and XRP has rallied from that point over 20%. So what do you think is going to happen if Bitcoin's dominance goes to, let's just say 50%? Or 40%. It's Bitcoin's dominance has been breaking to the downside, which means that the rest of the market or specific crypto commodities now have been outperforming Bitcoin since the 27th of June. So as you can see on the XRP price chart right here, when XRP was at roughly $2.09, Bitcoin's dominance was all the way up at about 65%. So almost 66% if we round it up. So Bitcoin's dominance is down 5% since that point, and XRP's price is up over 60%. So if we just look at the XRP, the US dollar price chart right now with this massive green candle, I think this is just the start. Sure, it could get a little choppy in this range here, if we see a little pullback like this and XRP continuing higher. Ultimately, this right here was the low for XRP. I was expecting it to go a little bit lower, potentially down to this high right here of $2.65, but you can't get always too greedy to the downside. I mean, we were just about 10 cents off from that, so pretty close. That's why not financial advice, obviously. Do what you want. I'm not telling you to buy XRP or sell XRP or anything, but you got to accumulate any dips that you can possibly accumulate on the more macro timeframes when we're in oversold conditions. For example, like if I zoom out here on the daily chart, you guys can see that the stochastic RSI when XRP was down here at like $2.75, was all the way down pretty much at zero ever since the 26th of July until the 2nd of August. We were all the way down here. Now the relative strength index, a good sign that we are still in bullish momentum. The RSI does not need to come down below 30. In fact, most of the time it doesn't. You're going to see the RSI use, 50 right in the middle of the range as a general support. As you can see, it moved a little bit below it, so it's not 100% exact, but we are back above 50 on the relative strength index. We're at 61 on the daily, and the stochastic is at 75 and 56 in positive momentum. And so I would just expect XRP, even if we see a little bit of a pullback, to see some chop through this range and just continue higher and inevitably break out past the all-time high and go into price discovery. This is what I'm looking for XRP, because this ultimately is just another cup and handle pattern that you can see. If we look all the way back here from the high on the 16th of January ultimately to this high right here, you guys can see this massive cup essentially for XRP. And what we're going through right now is the handle. So depending on how choppy it gets in the short term and in the volatility over the next 1 to 2 weeks, as this good news spreads around the world, well, what we would do for a price target is we would take the depth of the cup. So if I just take it from this high right here on the 16th of January and measure down to the low of $1.59 and put it to the breakout point, rough estimate here would be roughly $5.45. So right around about $5. That's where I'd expect the next major move for XRP before we see some major volatility and some aggressive 20, 30, 40, maybe 50% pullback again. And we're going to revisit the chart when we are up there. Now, if we don't hit $5, I would be absolutely dumbfounded. I would be shocked. This is one of the easiest plays in history. Bigger than the stock market, bigger than gold, bigger than any real estate property you could have possibly invested in. And the people that just didn't see this, I mean, talk about ignorance to the finest degree on a global scale, because we were yelling from the top of our lungs for years about this. You know, this suppression that was taking place all through here during this phase was because the SEC was targeting Ripple, but all behind the scenes, if you guys watched every single video, we were covering the massive partnerships, the acquisitions, and the strategic alliances that Ripple was engaging in over the course of 2022 to 2024 for those 2 years. When people were calling Ripple a scam, XRP a scam, well, Ripple could have easily dipped and left and not spent millions of dollars to fight the SEC. No, what did they do? They doubled down. They defended XRP, the XRP community. They defended the whole entire industry. So if someone's watching this video, let's say you have another channel and you didn't talk about XRP during this time frame, you're talking about a bunch of other projects, you know, I really don't think you are a true crypto investor if you weren't supporting Ripple during that phase, or XRP holders. Because if you're just supporting any other project and you're like, XRP is a scam, well, just watch, guys. There's going to be a flurry of videos of people coming out there saying they were wrong about XRP when XRP gets upwards of $5. So that's why opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got one, and usually they're based on a foundation of crappy thinking. So take every opinion with a grain of salt unless it's rooted in actual facts. You know, the fact that XRP is the banker's coin is actually a good thing, because the banks are much bigger than these little crypto circles that are dealing with billions of dollars. Banks deal with trillions of dollars every single day. So in terms of which project is actually the best in the space, you know, it's XRP. Nonetheless, I mean, agree to disagree. Like, you guys can share your thoughts in the comments below, but look at Bitcoin's dominance here on the macro, okay? If we pull out to the daily chart, and if we just look at what trend Bitcoin has been in since 2022, it's been in a bullish trend where we've been making higher lows ultimately and higher highs. And so this trend right here is getting ready to break this ascending support. Now, if we break this ascending support at about roughly 60%, altcoins are going to absolutely fly. And just like in the past, if we go all the way back here, when Bitcoin broke this uptrend, if I were to just draw this ascending support from April of 2019 to right here, well, Bitcoin broke this uptrend right about here at the beginning of April of 2021. So let's go to XRP's price chart and see what happened on April of 2021. Well, what do you know is right when XRP was at about 60 cents right here and experienced this massive bullish green candle to push price past the previous high, we saw a little consolidation on top of it, and then we continued higher for this explosive blow off top to $1.92. And so that was about until the 14th of April. So for 2 weeks, XRP went from 60 cents to $1.95. This is going to happen very quick when we see something like this take place for Bitcoin's dominance. Now, we don't know exactly that breakdown moment, and if it's going to look like this, where it's just falling off of a shelf, basically jumping into the Grand Canyon down here, then we go into alt season. But it's coming very soon. And the reason why I say that is because we have seen this bearish divergence play out since ultimately, I mean, right here, you know, the 7th of May, we can see a higher high. And this has been playing out even more macro on the weekly chart, but I'll just look at the daily, then we'll go out even more macro. You can see Bitcoin's dominance made a higher high by the 26th of June, but look at the relative strength index. We went from 78 to about 69 right here, showing weakness in this bullish trend. And sure enough, you know, Bitcoin broke to the downside. This is just a short-term consolidation phase for Bitcoin on this drop base, which is a consolidation phase, and then a continuation to the downside, in my opinion.